Okay, witches, it's back! Join us for our third annual So Mote That Con on October 14th and 15th. Yes, this live virtual conference on living as a witch in today's world will have workshops by some of our most popular guests, rituals with the TWL crew, a whole mess of raffle prizes, plus a live keynote with Laurell K. Hamilton, the New York Times best-selling author of the Anita Blake Vampire series. Other presenters include Phyllis Curott, Onwin Avalon, Diana Rachel, and many, many more. Plus, I'll be teaching too. We'll be talking everything from hexing to hoodoo for liberation to the goddess Freya to making magical spaces accessible and so much more. Tickets are on sale now at thatwitchlife.com and they are going fast. The price goes up September 29th, so get them as soon as you can. And if you can't make it on the 14th and 15th, don't worry. Everything will be recorded and sent to all registrants after the event. So get your tickets ASAP at thatwitchlife.com and we'll see you on October 14th and 15th.
The path of the witch is so unique.
The gift of witchcraft.
I was able to see, hear, and communicate with
A
spirits.
very personal relationship between a person and spirit. Carnal lust and fun things like that.
Working with different energies and spirits and communicating.
Creating magic.
Powerful ritual and powerful spells.
She's actually sitting me in the cold.
The role of the witch is to make change.
Blessed be, y'all. Blessed be.
People ask me like, okay, I'm a witch and I don't know what to do.
20 years ago, 3 young friends realized they were witches.
They scattered to different parts of the world following magic and spirit.
Now, they're back in their hometown to share what they've learned.
Welcome to That Witch Life podcast, your home for living as a witch in today's world.
Hey everyone, welcome to That Witch Life podcast. I am your host today. I'm Courtney.
And I am Hillary, your co-host.
And I'm Kanani.
Kanani is not a co-host, she's just here taking up space.
She's just
I'm just here, just here to be
just
pretty for
there.
the picture.
That's it. That is it.
It's so funny because I just saw you both yesterday, and I've seen you both individually numerous times since July, but yet, because this is the first time we've done a quote-unquote standard recording since July, it feels like I haven't seen you two in months.
I know it feels
That's
weird,
true, actually.
right?
Yeah, it's just this kind of weird thing. And it literally we recorded yesterday. We were at Columbia Willamette Pagan Pride, which I said correctly. I said
I'm
it
so
correctly. Oh my God. Hillary and I had to have an intervention with Kanani yesterday, actually. It was really dramatic. Because Kanani, it really pisses Kanani off when I call Columbia Willamette Pagan Pride Columbia Willamette River Pagan Pride. Isn't that what I normally do?
No, you called
I
it
use
Columbia
Columbia
Valley.
Okay, I usually call it Columbia Willamette Valley Pagan Pride because that to me is natural because we say Willamette Valley, da 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 da. And so Kanani was going off saying, "Don't listen to Courtney. It is Columbia Willamette Pagan Pride. There is no valley in there." Da 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 da. And then she's going off at how I always say it wrong. And I said, Kanani, I have to tell you something that I've been wanting to tell you this for a while, and now I'm going to break it to you. It is Baskin Robbins, not Baskin and Robbins.
And Robbins.
And she's like, I don't say that. And Hillary looks at me, and then she looks at Kanani and she goes, You do,
Yeah, you
though.
say that.
And she goes, No, it's Baskin Robbins. And there was like a pause because she had to consciously not say the and. And she's like, I never say that. And Hillary and I are like, you always call it Baskin and Robbins.
Baskin and Robbins.
I'm gonna encourage everybody.
I mean, to be fair, you don't go Baskin and Robbins. You're like Baskin and Robbins. There's
Yeah. There's
Definitely
Robbins.
say not and. You're right, because I don't usually say and. I say N.
Yeah, there's no
Like
end. It's
Baskin
Baskin
and Robbins.
Yeah, it's Baskin,
Baskin
Robbins.
Robbins.
But she
Yeah.
goes Baskin and Robbins, and always. And so
So we have to correct her, obviously.
listeners, come on, say something on Instagram. We're like, yeah, Kanani, we've heard it. Because I even recently drove by a Baskin Robbins and I was
And
parked at a
double-checked.
stoplight and I double checked. I looked up at the insignia, the logo, and I'm like, there is no in
That makes me
Baskin
happy.
Robbins. It's
Are wiggled, warmed into your brain. That actually brings me a level of joy that you had to stop what you were doing to look at the sign to be like, is the stupid bitch wrong or am I wrong? Like, what is happening right now? It's one of those words that we used to joke about at work. It used to drive my friend crazy. when people say like Nordstrom's.
Yeah, Nordstrom's. People put an S on
It's
the end of some
But they
Nordstrom.
say Nordstrom's. Or like we have here in the Northwest, we have Fred Meyer. People call it Fred Meyer's.
Yeah.
Like they just always say it with the plural, Fred Meyer's. And
that can
it
be a little
drives
more.
my coworker bat crap crazy, and it's hilarious because every time he hears it, it's like nails in a chalkboard, and he visibly winces.
Yeah. The only thing I can say about the Fred Meyer thing that has any sort of compassion is because a lot of people call it Freddy's, and there is an S there, and so you can see
That's
why
true.
they might move it over to Fred Meyer's. So there's that. I knew somebody. Oh my God! And this is. I'm sorry. I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. This is something you do, but it is something that just you should make my toes curl just thinking about it. I knew this person who would always, instead of library, called it library, and instead of specifically, always said pacifically.
Yeah,
and this person, that was just one of the things that they always did, and I would be like, I'm sorry, but this is really annoying me. But
I'm going to out myself. This is something now that everyone knows that it's kind of become out in the ether and it's a joke. That
Baskin and Robbins, it's not Baskin and Robbins.
That's true. But Philip, who does our banners and stuff like that, is also an ex of mine that we're really good friends.
Oh, now we're telling everyone. Fancy Phyllis, Kanani's ex.
I think everyone's figured it out by now, and if you haven't, I'm kind of sad for you. But he called me out on this like 18 years ago, and now I can't unhear it when I say it, but I can't fix it. So I'm going to embarrass myself here. I say canny, and like for, chocolates and things. Like I'm going to go buy some canny. Yeah, I say canny.
Canny instead of candy?
Yeah.
I've never heard you say that.
I've never once heard you say that.
It's something he's called me out on numerous times, and I say buttons.
What's wrong with that?
Like with with an I, like very. And
that's
so
that's our region's accent. That's how we say it. Buttons.
Yeah, he used to just laugh at me when I would say the word buttons.
How does he say it?
Or canny?
Wrong.
I don't know.
Incorrectly.
Those are things that he used to make fun. He wasn't mean about it. Like he thought it was funny. He thought it was like endearing. And then I would punch him in the neck because it embarrassed me.
Because fair.
But yeah.
No, but buttons. That's how we all say it out here. That's our accent.
Yeah.
That's how I
say it.
I don't know.
Okay, well, there's something wrong with his hearing. Sorry, Fancy Phil, but it's true. What else? Yeah, and then there's also people say intensive purposes. It's intense and purposes. Intensive purposes. It's intense and purposes. Or when they say like
another thing I used to say that I had a boss that used to correct me on, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It'll come to me later, but there was something, and I used to say it frequently, and every time he would cringe and correct me and be like, "You cannot say that anymore.
The
you
one that drives me.
You are too grown."
The one that drives me crazy is people that say reiterate, like reiterate.
Say reiterate. Oh.
Reiterate all the time, and I'm like, no. You're reiterate. You're like, it's a reiteration. Iteration. Like I don't care if it's like soft reiterate, but frequently I hear people say reiterate. I want to reiterate the point, and I'm like, no, it's not the word.
Oh my God. I just heard about, now speaking of pronunciations that drive people crazy, and then someone who just went for it. So as many of you may be aware, and if you're not, we live and learn. There is a city in Texas called Houston, right? Houston, Texas. And there is a street in New York City called Houston. They are both spelled the same.
Well, it's like Cooch and Couch in Portland.
Cooch and Couch. Yeah, exactly.
I was just going to say that. I follow a guy, and all he does is put like words from places or streets or things in Oregon that anyone not from Oregon would say and mispronounces.
Yeah,
but and it's hilarious. And that's always on there is Cooch because it's spelled like couch.
Yeah, but here's what this woman did. She has 2 dogs, and she named one Houston and the other Houston. And of course, they're both spelled the
Don't do
same.
that. That's such an asshole thing to do. I
And
love
someone
it.
said, "Why do you do that?" And she said, "Because I like to stir things up."
Because I'm an
yes.
asshole.
So she has
That's
two
such
dogs
an asshole thing to do. It makes me
Houston
so happy.
and Houston. I mean,
That's a dickhead. That's
the
a
only
dickhead.
thing that I find that is at all troubling is that the dogs, to a dog's ears, that sounds very similar.
Yeah.
But for humans, I think it's awesome.
I mean,
That
honestly.
is so good.
I
Well,
know.
it drives me crazy that like people from the South like to call Oregon.
It's not just the South; they call it
Washington?
everywhere.
That's
No,
true. Lots of other
It's
places call it
all over
Oregon.
places. I had
And
to
then they call Washington Washington. They put an R in it. Washington. Drives me banana.
Well, that's because that's like a regional thing about the word wash is that in many places they say wash. So it's not just the state. That's like how those first four letters are pronounced. Like wash.
I don't want your
taken in wash.
excuses.
That's the way it is.
I don't want them.
But it's not just the South. When I was in New York, people would often say like, "Oh, well, Oregon, I love Oregon." I'd be like, "Oh my God." And I had a coworker who came out here for work and she kept saying Oregon, Oregon. I said, "Listen, you will be chased out of town by some very passive aggressive people. That's the only time that these passive aggressive fuckers become aggressive is if you mispronounce Oregon or you insult the Enchanted Forest." Hillary and I saw Oregonians go bananas.
This is so funny because, to be honest, the video was hysterical, and I like the Enchanted Forest is like my religion, okay? But it's like this
Their witchcraft.
video where
Hillary, what's your witchcraft tradition? Enchanted Forest, Oregon.
what's your I'm a practitioner of the Enchanted Forest, but
I'm a high priestess of the Enchanted Forest tradition. And
who initiated you into that? Me. But
bullshit. It was the wicked witch in the Hansel and Gretel cottage.
It was the Hansel and Gretel bitch.
You went as Hillary and you came out as the high priestess of Enchanted Forest.
It's true. And that just, I don't know, but anyway, it's like you find this like Disneyland type, children's theme park, right? And then it's like in Oregon, and then it's like this like wonky music, right? And it's really funny. And it's funny because I thought it was funny, and I was like, how dare they? But I also thought it was funny. But like Oregonians were big mad. They were big mad.
Very
I am
mood.
not one of them. I will support you.
Very mood. Very
were big
mood.
mad. And it was like people were like, how dare you? How dare you? And then someone said, it's like if you ordered Disneyland on Wish. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, stop. I was like, stop it. Stop. And like
they captured like that the animatronic puppets.
And I'm just saying.
That haven't been updated since the 70s.
Oh, God. It's so funny. But the Enchanted Forest, as weird as it is, that's what makes it cool. And I judge people. Like, I don't care if people are like, I mean, Enchanted Forest is fine. But if people dislike, I'm like, if you don't like the Enchanted Forest, then I don't like that is a requirement for friendship with me. Like I started
because you love me and I have no use for the Enchanted Forest.
You don't dislike the Enchanted Forest
on Facebook. What a wonderful time you had.
Fun of it. I'm not going to make fun of it because I get why people like it. It's just not my jam.
You went there with your kids and had a wonderful time, and you said so on Facebook.
Yeah, you're not like, this is stupid. You're like, it's Enchanted Forest is fucking weird, right? But it's like, but people that are like, I don't like this place. And I'm like, so I bring people. Also, I was friends with you before I knew that. Otherwise, maybe
that's true. You wouldn't have looked at me twice.
So, I mean, I felt the same way about Courtney's husband. I was like, if I had known before the wedding, I would have intervened, but it's too late now. So we're stuck with each other. But the thing is like, I was laughing because like, I mean, I literally took a friend there recently who I started doing creative collaboration with because I was like, I don't know how invested I can be. I don't know how invested I can be if Christian doesn't like the Enchanted Forest. like, I don't know that we can continue to collaborate together. And he loved the Enchanted Forest. So I was like, oh, good. I'm so glad that we can continue doing weird art
be
together.
fair, the other day I was talking to someone who lives in the South and they said the word butthole and I laughed so hard I almost peed. And it was very similar to when you guys, like someone says something about pigs and you guys just lose your shit for no reason and it makes no sense. I don't know why it triggered that in me. It was the way that they said it was the funniest thing I've ever fucking heard.
That's
And I
hilarious.
could not stop laughing. I actually had to mute my phone for a minute because I was laughing so hard. I don't know why, but somehow hearing them say the word butthole, which was just enough to set me off and just put me into a giggling fit.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of giggle fits, and I'm listening to my child scream downstairs because I don't know why. I think it's because we made her eat yogurt at dinner and she's not happy about it.
How dare you?
How
That's
very
what infants
dare.
do.
I very dare. Well, it's an hour before her bedtime. Her world is over. She's mad.
Yeah, they get tired and mad.
Yeah, and also she wants me in her line of sight. Like, her daddy is the greatest person in her world. She wants only wants to hang out with daddy, but she needs to see me. She's like, I need to know you're there, but I want to hang out with him. So, but we all got together yesterday at Columbia Willamette Pagan Pride. I'm gonna start calling it Columbia Willamette and Pagan Pride.
Willamette. Willamette and Pagan Pride.
Willamette and Pagan Pride.
That's really
Columbia
funny.
Willamette and Pagan
It
Pride.
was really fun, though. I had a great day.
I had a wonderful day. It was so good to see people. It was my first time being back since before the pandemic. And it was beautiful weather. Everybody was so nice. And we just got so much support from people. I had great people attending my class and wonderful people that came to our live recording. And we got to interview Remy again, who always, Kanani and I were talking about Remy today. And we're like, she just comes in from on high and she's just better than all of us. And we know it.
She's just better than everyone.
She doesn't think she's better. We just know that she's better.
She's just one. That's what part of what makes her so wonderful is the fact that she's just so approachable and just wonderful and magical.
Yeah.
And it was cute because I actually was re-listening to part of that episode because I was just kind of curious to see how because we were at an event, what the background noise was. And so my daughter was overhearing me listen to it. And that's the first thing she's like, is that Remy? And I go, yeah, we talked to her during the event. She's like, I love her.
She's wonderful.
She recognized her voice. She's like, I just love her.
Yeah, she was fantastic. But I had a question, like a legit question for both of you, because when I came home last night, I was just really zapped. And part of it is I haven't been sleeping much lately. And Pagan Prides, as much fun as they are, I just come home so tired and ravenous after every single one of them. Like,
Me too.
Yeah, I took a very healthy, well-balanced dinner out of the freezer for my family to eat when we came home. That would be economical and good for us because it had lots of vegetables and, nutrients and things. Oh no. I made my husband stop and get us overpriced burgers and toss at Hotel Oregon because I was just like, no, there will be nothing nutritious for me on the way home and nothing inexpensive.
Yeah.
I need an overpriced burger with Cajun tots immediately. And I ate the whole thing. I was ravenous and I just cried really hard and I don't know why. And it's not even time for my period, but it's like, I think, it's such an emotive place and people tend to bring their relief with them because they're finally among other weirdos like them.
Mm-hmm.
And we need these spaces so badly and we haven't had them. And I had to get in the bath last night and do a very specific cleanse. Like I'm sending, this, I'm releasing this, whatever I picked up. I know it came in love and it's going in love, but it's not fitting right now and it needs to go. And so I was curious, do either one of you have any rituals that you need to do at the end of being in a really intense, ramped up magical space like that? Because not only was it witches, it's at an amusement park, which is a naturally magical place anyway, by a river, which is a naturally magical place anyway, in a part of Portland, which is totally haunted. So, what do you have to do after a situation like that?
I have an opposite. It's kind of funny. I have an opposite reaction to stress and anxiety. A lot of people tend to eat. I think that's probably the most common. I literally shut down. And so when I came home, I unloaded the car because there was stuff in the car that I was like, it's hot. I don't want this stuff to melt. So I had enough energy. I unloaded the car. I think I managed to take a shower because I was just really hot and had been sweating. And I took a shower, put on my bathrobe, and then literally sat on my couch. And that's all I did. And I just kind of guided my kids as they were doing what they were doing. And I think at one point at like 8:30, I'm like, you have not eaten. You need to eat something. And so I keep like bags of salad in my house. And so I ate a bag of salad and drank some more water. Cause I'm like, I try and be good about telling myself I need to eat something. But I have the opposite problem where when I get really, really stressed, I just that's what I do. I just shut down.
Right.
I have a hard time focusing. I have a hard time, like there were certain things I was like, oh, I'm going to get this stuff done when I got home. None of that shit got done. I literally just sat on the couch and like I said, I have to remind myself to eat. I have a really hard time in those moments. That's one of the reasons why when my life gets really, really stressful, I tend to start losing weight because I don't eat and I don't want to eat and I'm not thinking about eating. And so then like I was complaining to my friend, I'm like, things are going too well. I'm too happy. I gained 5 pounds. And he's just like, that's a good thing. And I'm like, no, I like it better the other way. And he's just like, no, I know how you work. Like, this is a good thing. This means that you're balancing out, you're leveling out. And so I just kind of hibernate. I just kind of sit and I was under a cozy blanket with my remote control, with my phone, and just and that's kind of how I work at when I come back from festivals. A lot of times I don't have to remind myself to eat because I just kind of go into this little cocoon of just, I don't know, regrouping. I get very overwhelmed in those situations. It's fun and I love it and I have a great time. But the second I get home and I have a minute, I just kind of, come back into myself and just kind of don't really have energy for the outside world.
Yeah, I do like a couple of things, and it depends on sometimes I leave an event and I feel less taxed than other, like it just depends. Like sometimes I don't really need it as much. Sometimes I need it more, but usually what I do is I try to, it's always like shower or bath, depending on like if I have a bath I can soak in, that's the preference. Otherwise shower. But then I also will utilize either herbs or essential oils or whatever. But the purpose of that for me is not just like getting clean, but it's also sitting there and like really like letting whatever is on me wash off and like get, go down the drain in a way. But then I also will sometimes, if I'm still feeling like really a little flustered, I'll just go and stand with bare feet on the ground out in the, in dirt, or like on the grass or whatever, because
I do that sometimes when it's just too much. I'll just go stand. I'll just put my shoes and I'll stand in my yard and just stand there.
Yeah. And just or touch a tree or sit next to a tree, something where I'm just outside. So yesterday I came back, I took a shower, I went and I just spent the evening. I came back, I ate, I went and grabbed some food. But once I was back at the house for the evening, I took a shower and I sat out on my patio. I stood outside for a little bit and then I sat on my patio and just I had some a herb bundle from Annie Obby, Necessary Magic, that I burned a little bit outside and just tried to get rid of whatever residual energy was on me, but the other thing is sometimes at these events, I also just yesterday I felt okay energetically, but I realized that when it's not hot, I'm bad at remembering to hydrate. So
that's true. The hot snuck up on us.
Right. And then also when it's hot, I don't really generally feel like eating. So I had a chicken strip and a couple of fries from the fair that was fair or carnival food, basically not the fair, but from the amusement park, it was carnival food. And I was this is, whatever. I just, I was just kind of ugh. But I do think that I think for me, it just depends on what I'm feeling. Sometimes from these events, what I get is it's almost I'm not ungrounded. It's like I'm floating around. When it's that, the go-to is to go out and put my feet in some soil. Or if you don't have soil, like, if a tree, like touching a tree or leaning up against a tree, but something that's like rooted, right? And then I really focus on, like kind of try to get into a little bit of a trance state and like focus on reattaching my feet to the ground, like roots, because it's like very easy to kind of just like float off into the stratosphere sometimes. But yeah, I think all of us
too are the kind of people who are really good in social situations and really good in people-y situations, but we also really, really like to be alone. You know what I mean? So it's like when we're in those situations, we can do it and we do a good job and we're comfortable and we can have fun, we can enjoy them. But then we also really kind of like to just be our own people in our own space.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel like those moments, can really take a lot out of me. I love them. I enjoy them. But yeah, when they're over, I kind of feel very overwhelmed and just kind of the need to decompress.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that way, I think, in any kind of space where you're holding space for others, like if it's a professional setting or artistic setting or both or what have you. And I do think there's a very specific kind of buzz that comes from these magic spaces because it's like you're both elected. Because I always leave these pagan prides on a high, like, oh my God, it was so much fun. And then when I get home,
exactly.
Can't move. I had just like an immensely,
it's also just a lot of like having to like, especially when we go there, it's like people know who we are because of the podcast. And then it's like also just like putting on that like, oh, hi. This is like kind of this like masking all day, this like, peopling all day, which like I think in a more casual environment, sometimes I find easier. But when I have to like, I don't know. But
no, I totally hear you. And I also think, the other thing I was thinking is we have the new moon coming up. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like there's a lot of that energy that's coming right now too. Yes. And so like I started, like you were talking about, you had a dream last night and I had just nonstop crazy dreams all night long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just kept having weird dream and I don't remember them, but I would just remember I would wake up after a dream and be like, that was fucking weird. And then I'd go back to sleep and I'd have another weird dream and I'd wake up and I think that was fucking weird. And it was just all night long. It was just weird dream after weird dream. And so I think we also have that kind of, there's also the new moon energy that's coming, which kind of wreaks a little natural havoc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Like I said, I've been so tired lately. And then also doing magic and things like that. When I was teaching yesterday, I could not remember the word Ferris wheel. I was saying to people, it's the booth over by and I started just drawing a circle in the air with my index finger. And I stood there for like a good 30 seconds till somebody said Ferris wheel. And I said, yes, that thing. Like, I could not remember.
You're like, yeah, that's really the thing.
Oh,
that's
God.
Funny.
Well, but all that to say, though, is that I feel like I didn't get enough Pagan Pride. And so I am really, really looking forward to going up to Tacoma.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so excited for Puget Sound.
Yeah. So what we're saying, since it is at a hotel, what we're saying is you all might see us like running up and down the halls, maybe dressed, probably not, at least, and laughing.
If you see Courtney and myself collapsed on a pile on the floor, we're probably not crying. We're probably laughing.
If we're turning purple and we can't breathe.
If Connie looks irritated, we're definitely laughing.
Exactly.
But then my husband will come out and go, I just can't with you guys. And then Connie will go, it's funny. So I'm not irritated anymore because that's kind of funny.
Yeah, he'll be like,
make me laugh.
He'll be like,
when I see him aggravated, that will bring me joy.
He'll be like, you two are a mess. And we'll be like, yeah, but it's awesome. We're an awesome mess. I was like, we probably shouldn't get adjoining rooms. And Brian was like, hell no. And he's like, We need to be 10
Can you
floors
imagine what
apart.
we would do if we had adjoining rooms? Why didn't we do that?
We can
This is a new plan.
You know what? We'll open both doors and just spin around. We'll just run through like a little merry-go-round. Right?
I can
We'll
I
see
think
it.
that's a good plan. I'm here
We'll
for
have
I
it.
will get
streamers.
so drunk and I'll just knock all night. Are you still there? I just want to make. Are you okay? I just want to make sure you're still there. Are you guys need my help? Do you need me to come in?
We'll have a
going on?
parade, and we'll just go round and round in circles around the middle.
We'll do it.
We'll turn
my
it into
God.
a maypole in September. We'll turn.
I will do that. I will wear my Hello Kitty hooded pajamas and run around in my hoodie jammies.
Okay, well, that being said, don't forget, y'all. Tickets are now on sale for So Mote That Con.
Yes.
Keynote with Laurell K. Hamilton of the Anita Blake Vampire series. And yes, it is virtual. Yes, it is being recorded. If you can't be there live, you can, if you register, you'll get all the recordings. And we're actually about to speak with one of our presenters, Phyllis Curott. And so let us go get a quick word from our sponsors and come back and hear some incredible things about the new tarot deck she has coming out.
Yay.
I'm so excited. Okay, Kachina Aurora fans, get ready because our friend Dawn Hunt has now launched a new, drumroll, tomato sauce. Magical marinara, roasted garlic, pomodoro. Holy shit.
We got to try it. I made this incredible pasta dish for my husband. I throw some beef sausage in there, just regular old stuff from the grocery store, topped it with this sauce, threw it on some gluten-free pasta because I have the celiac. My husband did not stop talking about this. I'm serious. The rest of the night was, oh my God, the sauce is so good. Oh my God, I am under Dawn's spell. Oh my God, I can't stop. I mean, the flavors sit with you. And like you just feel comforted and you feel loved and you really feel the magic that she puts in there and the high quality ingredients. I am actually serving that pasta dish with that sauce to my Italian mother-in-law when she's here next week. Okay, that is saying something, and I'm going to do it.
I mean, it's so true. I finally got my hands on a jar and it was the best. Like, I was like, wow, I don't even need to touch anything. This is perfection in a jar. I mean, honestly, I love everything Dawn does, but I also really lean into the Kachina Aurora infused olive oils, which are not only incredible to put on food, but they are also each crafted with magical intention. So you've got a really good, ready to go, delicious food, as well as your spell work.
If you haven't tried her coffee yet, you need to get on it because she has different ones for each of the seasons. Not only that, but she also has different brews for the dark moon, half moon, and full moon. These are whole bean coffees with different spectrums of darkness and strength. They're almost as dark as my soul. They are so, so good.
To bring your own practice into the kitchen, go to KachinaAurora.com ASAP and use code WitchLife to get 10% off. That's code WitchLife for 10% off.
Do it, witches, and thank you to Kachina Aurora for being an episode sponsor.
We have gotten so hooked on wearing our Blessed Be jewelry. Their pieces are the kinds that become your wear everyday signature items. They are, because they're so delicate and discreet, they are broom closet friendly and they give your witchy jewelry, more of an upgrade, a special touch. It is very tasteful witchy jewelry that is perfect for your everyday wear. You can wear it in the conference room. No one's going to know, but you're going to know because you are magical. And it's made by witches, and Blessed Be Magic has got something for every witch, regardless of their status of being in or out of the closet.
I am freaking out and love their new anklet collections and sets that they have right now. They have a triple goddess anklet, a pentacle anklet, and they have a Hecate's wheel bracelet and anklet set, which, yes, I have in fact purchased. I absolutely love anklets in the summertime. There's just something about having pretty jewelry on your ankles when you're wearing your summer dresses and in short season. It's just spectacular.
Yes, that new collection is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, frankly, everything Blessed Be Magic does is gorgeous. I have a number of their pieces and I wear them regularly and always get complimented. They have over 700 plus 5-star reviews. Like 700. That's insane. And they ship worldwide.
Yes, it is perfect. It's beautiful and magical. I wear my Hecate ring everywhere. You can step into your power with Blessed Be Magic's minimalist jewelry for powerful, witchy women.
Head over to blessedbemagic.com, that's magic with a K, and use WitchLife15, that's WitchLife15, and save 15% on all full-price talisman jewelry. Trust me, with as much shopping as you're about to do on this site, you're going to want that 15% off.
Thank you to Blessed Be Magic for being an episode sponsor. Literally everyone knows this podcast runs on blood, sweat, tears, and jasmine pearl tea. But now get ready, witches. Our beautiful friends at the Jasmine Pearl Tea Company have some new blends for this summer.
Oh my God. Seriously, everyone knows how obsessed I am with tea, and I am extra obsessed with Jasmine Pearl. Fortune's Fool, which is a pu'er tea for those looking for a more sophisticated tea, is insane. I am in love with it. Plus, it has pigs on the wrapper, which makes it extra amazing.
I need all of that tea.
They're insane. And everyone knows that coffee is my jam. One of the ways that you can get me to drink tea is when you have some sort of a mint tea. And the Northwest mint is absolutely fantastic. It's something that you can make in a large brew and you can put in your fridge so that you can drink it cold during hot months. And it is absolutely marvelous.
Yeah, and also the blackberry fig, which can be enjoyed either hot or iced. I mean, it's the end of the summer. Iced tea is still the thing, but the nights are getting cooler. And so this is a really great one to have around during the transition from summer to autumn. Also, you've got the equinox. It's a great herbal for this coming month and the change in the seasons. And it contains herbs that can be sometimes beneficial for those of us with uteruses.
You really, really need to go check out these teas at thejasminepearl.com. Save 10% with coupon code WITCH2023. That's WITCH2023. And you get free shipping on orders over 35. So get those orders in.
Thank you so much to the Jasmine Pearl Tea Company for being an episode sponsor.
Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. And we are delighted that Phyllis Curott has come back to be with us. A spiritual pioneer, Phyllis is an attorney, writer, and one of America's first public witches. Her 5 international best-selling books have been published in 14 languages, making her the most widely published Wiccan author. An outspoken advocate in the courts and media, she handled or consulted on groundbreaking cases securing the legal rights of witches, including cases of child custody, religious assembly, organization, expression, and free speech. Phyllis was the first Wiccan trustee of the Parliament of World Religions and was elected vice chair of the 2015 Parliament, creating the Women's Assembly, and served as the program chair for both the 2021 Virtual Parliament and the 2023 Parliament of World Religions in Chicago. And she's back talking with us again. Phyllis, welcome back. How have you been?
It's great to be back with you guys. Oh my goodness. I've been busy.
I'll say.
Yeah, big magic. I mean, that's how I think of it. You know, it's like a very large spell involving 7,000 people from all over the world. And it was a lot of work. And I don't think I'm going to be. So I know I'm not doing it again. I'm not going to do it again. This one was meant to be. It's been many years. I've been involved in the Parliament since 1993, and it's an important platform. It's been a really important venue in which to advance public acceptance, public understanding, to disabuse people of the negative stereotypes, to begin to get to the next step where we're actually seen and taken seriously and appreciated and valued, and the wisdom that we have to offer is finally being recognized and respected. And my focus for the last year in serving as program chair, it's always to advance the cause of women and making sure that they have a platform. And in keeping with that, making sure the goddess is on the main stage, and making sure that the pagan community is visible, has sacred space, has programming that is rich and rewarding, and opportunities for public ritual, all those things. I pay attention to all those things. But this year in particular, I was an advocate with the board of our theme, persuaded them that it was the right thing for us to do, and then guided us through the process of selecting the plenary speakers and developing, in particular, the program track devoted to the theme. And the theme was a call to conscience, defending freedom and human rights, essentially fighting for freedom and fighting against fascism. And it was a brave thing for the parliament to be willing to undertake. It was not without controversy. There was plenty of it. And of course there would be when you step into politics of this sort, but it had to be done. Spiritual leaders have always played a critical role in the advancement of social movements, at least in this country. We're used to seeing the Jewish community at the forefront of the civil rights movement, Father Berrigan, Reverend Sloan Coffin at the forefront of the anti-war movement in the 1960s and early 70s. They've always played a prominent role, and yet at this critical moment all over the world with this scourge of authoritarianism, which is happening everywhere, absolutely everywhere, not just here and not just in places like Russia or North Korea where you would expect it, but in Italy, which now has a fascist prime minister, and in France, where, Marine Le Pen was almost elected, lost by just a tiny fraction. This is a serious crisis. It's happening all over Europe. It's happening all over. And religious leaders need to step forward and address the crisis and stand together, because the first thing that fascists always do is find some minority, some group to other, and we know that, right? Because
they push a division. That's what they do.
Yeah, and we have been that other for 500 years, and so it was really important for all the world's faith traditions, their leaders, activists, to come together and refuse to participate in othering one another, but rather to recognize each other as sisters and brothers, and to stand up together and to refuse to say, there will be no place for fascism within our faiths, within our countries. So that's what I've been working on, big magic. and it stirred conscience, and it created engagement. And I would love to have had 50,000 people in the streets at the parliament, but there's only so much you can do. So we had 7,500 people, and a lot of little lights, I think, were kindled, right? And everybody was talking about it. They were talking about lots of other things, and as they always do, about the environment and about rights of women and about plurality and pluralism and fighting racism, indigenous rights, all the things that we're concerned with as people of faith and conscience. But there was an acute attention to the rise of fascism. And I think people will go home with good practices, good relationships, connections, engagement, inspiration. And one thing we know as witches and Wiccans and pagans, right, that one little candle can light up the world, right? That was Eleanor Roosevelt. She said she'd rather light one candle in the darkness than curse the darkness. So that's what we did, right? We lit a lot of little candles, and people will take those home to their churches and their temples and their mosques, and their boudoirs, and they'll talk, hopefully, to their communities of faith, and those little lights will grow, and it'll help bring some much needed illumination into a very dark world. So that's how I've been busy.
Nothing.
Very, very small things.
Obviously. Here, there, fighting fascism, and
Thank you for doing that work. By the way, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's important,
critical.
It is so important, and you continue to stay on those front lines and keep that focus there. And my curiosity is where was the controversy? Where did it come from?
couple of places. There was some concerns that were brought to our attention about one of the plenary speakers who'd been recommended to us by a member of our board. And the executive director and I vetted everybody that was recommended by we asked our trustees to make recommendations for plenary speakers, and we vetted everybody. But unless you're really well versed in Hindu politics, you wouldn't understand what you were looking at, right? So what was brought to our attention was a fairly well-known woman in the Hindu community in India who we had invited to speak in one of the plenaries. Turned out that the organization, which was a Vivekananda Society, which we assumed therefore meant that she was an appropriate figure to speak, was in the particular Vivekananda group was in fact a front for the RSS, which is a very right-wing Hindu nationalist. They're well connected with the old Nazi movement, the Blood and Soil movement, which we don't think of right, when we think of India. But in fact, there was a very fascist movement within India at the time, very anti-Semitic, certainly Islamophobic, but very anti-Semitic. And they're back in action, in fact, invoking George Soros in their materials, a lot of Islamophobia as well. And it turned out that she was a member of this organization, which was a front for the RSS, and had participated in tweeting and retweeting a lot of Islamophobic stuff. And we try to have the hard conversations at the parliament. I mean, that's how pagans and witches and Wiccans got to be there, right? Right. Willing to have those hard conversations. But you have to enter them with mutual respect, right? You don't get to have the world's most prestigious interfaith platform if you're spewing Islamophobic stuff, and if you're part of an anti-Semitic blood and soil fascist supporting organization. That's just
you can't. Yeah.
So I don't believe in deplatforming people. I think that's just not the way to go. But we were stuck with two bad choices, right? Let her speak, give her a platform, or rescind the invitation. Both bad, right? She shouldn't have been invited in the first place. But if you don't know Hindu politics,
and it's hard. You can vet, you can go and dig deep, and you can do the best you can to vet people. And sometimes there's some small thing that you don't know about. That's
exactly.
And being in that position is very challenging because you're like, what is the right, neither option is ideal,
Right.
That's hard.
So we all discussed it, and the board agreed. And so the decision was made to pull her invitation, and it provoked quite a bit of upset. And the Indian consul in Chicago was writing to our chair and insisting that she be reinstated. And there was a kerfuffle, and we dealt with it. And we were just like, no, sorry, just can't. This is the Parliament of the World's Religion.
That's too important.
Is convenient.
That's a platform, like you said.
Exactly. And
it's dangerous.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because we talked about this kind of when we talked to Irene Glass about how there is, one of the difficulties in a lot of the Norse religion is there can be a lot of white supremacist type stuff. And I think that a lot of times, especially people who are new to paganism or new to witchcraft, I think there's an automatic assumption of a certain level of progressivism and belief in equality and things like that. And so I think that a lot of times if people don't know the dog whistles or don't do a little bit of research, they may not quite understand that there actually is within this, within witchcraft, within paganism, networks of, some pretty out there extreme views.
Yeah, I mean, it's longstanding, unfortunately. I was encountering it when I was in Europe 20 years ago, that there was a resurgence, right? Yeah, was a resurgence. And the Southern Poverty Law Center put out a paper a number of years ago pinpointing, these, and they were very responsive when a number of us wrote and said, listen, you know, you're painting with too broad a brush, you know, that declaring all Nordic groups and all pagan groups
Right.
fascist, and they're not, but they, you know, there are a lot of them. And
but no practice, like there's no practice that's free of radicalized groups like that. Like, you know, I think that's an important thing for people to remember, that like it's very easy to point out the obvious ones, the ones that were like, no, this isn't acceptable. But every practice, every religion, every spiritual practice, there are those groups that sometimes hide beneath a larger body of people, that if it's not super obvious, you don't know, right? Like, and sometimes it's really hard to even find, because they know, I mean, like, people are not going to out themselves like that. They know that there'll be backlash a lot of the time. So it's important, you know. And I mean, it's like when you're in that situation, all you can do is like make the choice that you feel is the correct one in that moment, because you can't, you know, sometimes you think you've vetted to the best of your absolute capability, and there's just nothing, you know, there's something that you don't know. And I'm like, really applaud all of you for making a decision that I'm sure was not easy or came with no backlash. But like, I think it's really beautiful to see people being like, it doesn't matter. We have to, you know, we can't allow that kind of platform to people that are doing harm like that, you know?
Exactly. So that was the decision, and we took the heat, and there you go. And there was heat because especially in India, there's a lot of attention that's paid to the Parliament of the World's Religions, because Swami Vivekananda was present in 1893, and the Vivekananda Society was created out of it in the United States and plays a very active role in the Parliament. And there's a lot of esteem, and not, you know, people know more about the Parliament of the World's Religions in India than they do in America, actually. But the fact is that there is a real right-wing trend in India right now, and Modi is, you know, a part of that movement. And it was very discouraging to me to see. I mean, I understand politics and it's complicated, and they make strange bedfellows and often bad ones. I was not happy to see Biden go over, but they do have, as part of the White House, there is a Council on International Religious Freedom. They were present at the Parliament and spoke. The ambassador for religious freedom from the White House was there. And we had Republicans. We had Congressman Bartlett, who is on the Committee on China, and he spoke about what's happening in China. The fact is that you're right. But before I forget, we also had, because I've made a point of making sure that they're present, we have a large heathen contingent that's always at the Parliament, and I make sure that they get a platform. The Heathens Against Hate get a platform, and they're wonderful. They do the most marvelous programming, always, and it's so important. But there is, as you said, there is within, because I think it's in human nature, that in every faith, there are orthodoxies. I mean, one of the most brutal forms of authoritarianism, right, are theocracies.
Oh, and yes.
A movement towards theocracy in Israel now, right? So we know it's in Saudi Arabia and it's in Israel. There's a move now to a theocratic state, and it's very distressing. And so why would we be any different, right? So we each have to look to our own houses. There's an impulse in people. It seems biological. That's the only, I mean, to the extent that I understand it, I read some article years back in a psych journal that, and there was somebody who did it. I can't remember his name. Forgive me. I'm getting old and I'm tired. But you'll find it on TED. It was a TED talk years ago. It was a psychologist who talked about human nature, and that we sort of break down into two characters. There's a conservative and there's a liberal, to borrow those terms, right? And the conservative character tends to react to strangers with anxiety and a certain measure of fear, to the unknown, right? If there's a loud noise, they react with fear. They have a great affection for cleanliness, and they lean towards authoritarianism. Why? Because it makes them feel safe, right? Especially in situations of uncertainty where they feel fearful. And then you have the liberal kind of psychology, and they tend to be very tolerant of the other, and curious, that their nature is curious. If they hear a loud noise, they're like, oh, what was that? So you can sort of see where Mother Nature would want to have both, right? Because if you're completely like, oh, cool, what was that? Let's go investigate. And it's a bear, may not be the necessarily.
Watch out for the saber tooth.
There you go. Sometimes it's appropriate to be afraid, right? And to have somebody in charge who's like, all right, hide behind the rock. Okay. But you can't live entirely like that. And you can't evolve like that. You need curiosity and openness and acceptance of others. So you kind of need both. And unfortunately, we're living in a world right now where open-mindedness and tolerance is descendant, and authoritarianism, fear of the other, fear of the unknown, and fear of things that are dangerous, and the need then for a fascist, a bully, a strongman, a despot, a dictator to tell you how to live. And we're odd. I don't know about you guys, but when I see these videos of people in North Korea, waving and cheering, and I'm like, gosh, I don't get it, but I'm a witch, right? So I'm not going to get it. I'm on the other end of that spectrum, but I'm hopeful. I am. I'm hopeful because I think that Mother Nature is teaching us what we actually need in order to get through this period and to survive and to do it the right way. And I think that's why, personally, there's such an explosion of interest. I mean, I know it's TikTok, but beyond TikTok or witch talk, beyond that, there's something deeper that is summoning people to attention, to come home. Mm-hmm. And I know that everything is awry and the weather is crazy and things are getting very bad. But we are a strange species. They say that species evolve when their survival depends on it. And so maybe now we're going to pay attention to how we're supposed to live in order to survive. Maybe not just survive, but maybe thrive, right? Do it the right way.
Because so many of us are not thriving. Right. Like it's the thing I talk about in my, my Hecate class all the time is that modern day pagans often have this idea of a fertility goddess as being entirely benevolent and always giving and can always provide. And it's like, well, that's very contemporary thinking because we have agricultural tools that in many areas of the world force the earth to provide beyond what is natural. It's not that there's not enough food. People go hungry because of economics. So the way we're living isn't working when you have people that can't afford to eat and they can't afford to live anywhere. They can't get housing. It's like that's not thriving. That's not living. That's survival at a certain point, Yeah. So,
and of course, they always say that people don't think about art. They don't think about beauty. They don't think about music. They don't think about spirituality when they're struggling to survive. And
that's exactly right. That's one of the reasons why I think that like something as simple as like free lunches for children, right? Or free snacks and things, breakfast and stuff like that. How do you expect a child to pay attention in school if they're hungry? They can't. Mm-hmm. The only thing they're going to think about all day is that they're hungry. And worry about the fact they're hungry and worry about when am I going to eat again and things like that. If you can do something just as simple as provide them food while they're there, their ability to focus and their ability to learn and their ability to thrive is just like, it's there. It's actually there instead of them just being kind of absent and distracted. And because, if all you're doing is trying to survive, then you're not living and you're not able to evolve as a person.
It's true. And I think sometimes, it's like I will go very drastically one way or another. If I am really struggling, I'm either going to lean heavily into my practice or I'm going to completely neglect my practice.
Yeah.
Right. And it depends on where I am mentally in that process. Like, sometimes, I had this conversation with someone the other day things have been really hectic. Like I have fibromyalgia. Like my fibromyalgia has been all over the place because the weather has been all over the place. And, like just things that like normally are easy to do have been less easy to do. And, someone brought up like, well, what's your practice like during this time? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like there's dust all over my altar. I haven't had time to do any of the things that I normally do. And it's funny because I paused for a second and I was like, it's this balance where it's like, you're exhausted. So like, it's like, that this thing will help, but you also have to have the energy and mental capacity to do the thing. So it's like, it is really tricky, and I try to, when I get into that space, like pause and go, okay, like, what can I do? How can I like you can't solve every problem in your house, in the world, in your city, in within your family in one day with one motion. But like, what are small? So that's when I really try to pause and go, okay, am I overcomplicating my practice? Like, can I streamline this so that it's practical for me? And sometimes that means like, yes, I want to do all these different things in the morning and the evening before I do this and when I do this. And like, that's great. And that's when like, we're all in A+ spaces. We're like feeling great. Our lives aren't hectic. Money isn't tight. We're not stressed. The world's fine. Nothing's on fire out there physically or metaphorically. But like, when we get to this space where we're really just like depleted, like, sometimes I have to pause and be like, okay, I know in a perfect world, I would remove everything off of every altar in my house and dust and hand do everything and cleanse them and do this and reorganize. And sometimes that's just like, it's like, am I going to sleep today or am I going to do that? Like there's not. And so when I get in that space, I try to go, let's just focus on one thing that's really simple that I can do that keeps me connected to my practice, that's sustainable, because it's, in times where I think any of us have all the energy and the bandwidth, emotional, spiritual, mental, whatever, it's very easy to like do some of the bigger gestures in our practice. But sometimes, and it's very easy, I think, when we get lost, when we're kind of, struggling it becomes a chore rather than realizing we can lean on our practice to help us. But I think it can be that overwhelming thing. So I always try to just pause when I catch myself in that moment and go, I'm going to go ahead and just reset for a moment and just make sure that I, like, even if I do one thing that allows me to stay tethered to that will help me.
For sure. Yeah. And, along the lines of practices that people can do in this time, one of the things that is becoming really even more popular than ever is tarot. Mm-hmm. And Phyllis, you have an extraordinary new tarot deck coming out called the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, because it's called the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. Tell people about it. I mean, I've seen images of it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Tell us about it.
Courtney, do not have a deck. I'm going to have to make sure you get one.
Oh, well, please do. I will do all the TikToks. Yeah, because I got the people that love the TikToks that I do on the tarot. Did you know I have a TikTok account? Yes, I do.
That's okay. You and the Chinese.
You know what? There is a huge community of people that love tarot in China.
Oh, interesting. It's fascinating. Yes. Because my which one was it? It was either my new spell book or my Wicca Made Easy. I can't remember. Just came out in Chinese.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm like, okay. And there's a Russian copy of the deck and a Belarusian. And when they asked me about it, I almost said no. And then I was like, no, say yes, because the people who want it are really going to need it. And it's
they probably need it the most.
So it's been amazing. It's very different. I got it by journeying. So it is not, I practiced tarot for as many years as I've been a witch. So that's more than 40 years. And I love it. For me, it is a deeply spiritual practice. It's a way of speaking to the sacred. It's a way of having a conversation with the divine. I ask a question, and better than a prayer, right? I get an answer. There's somebody on the other side of the phone. The phone is the tarot deck. It's the way that we're conversing. And the opportunity to create a deck was, I had not really given it any thought. And Hay House asked me if I would do it. Michelle Pilley, who's a good friend, asked if I would do it. And I said, absolutely. She said, but, I'm a witch's deck. I said, yeah, exactly. And I journeyed. You can see my drum over my shoulder. You guys can't because you're hearing it, but I'm telling you, there's a beautiful frame drum over my shoulder. I've been journeying for as long as I've been a witch. In fact, I was the first one to integrate the core shamanic practices with witchcraft, and it really deconstructed my practice. So I journeyed and I asked, what does the world need to know? There are 8 million tarot decks out there, with comic book characters and cats and witches, and who needs another tarot deck? So I asked, I said, what does the world need with another deck? And I was told, start with the elements, not the symbols, not the man-made symbols that we interpose between us and the elements. Go directly to the elements and let them show you what the world needs to know. We then set about trying to find the right artist, and we found Danielle Barlow, who's a hedge witch in England. And it turns out that she knows how to journey. And before I even spoke to her, she journeyed. I didn't know this until I finally spoke with her. She journeyed too. And she asked the same question. What do we need to know to do this? What do I need to know to help Phyllis create this? And she was told the same thing. No symbols, start with the elements. So when we met, I saw her artwork and I was like, yeah, beautiful. Perfect. She's a witch. Yeah. Oh, she journeys. Perfect. Because I had already made up my mind that I wanted to journey for each of the cards. I was not going to bring my assumptions or what I knew or what I thought I knew. I was going to ask, what does the world need to know? And I was going to do it by using another method of divination that's even more ancient, which is journeying, which is the use of the drum. And all indigenous peoples, including our ancestors, use it. So we had the conversation and I called Michelle and I said, that's our artist. And we started, I was blessed because she could journey with me, right? So I didn't have to do this on my own. So we journeyed for every single card and we followed some of the structure, the traditional structure of the deck. We began with air, then fire, water, earth. We journeyed for every single card. We wrote down our journeys. We shared them. We discussed them. It was astonishing. Even though I'm used to journeying with people and have done it for so many years and know how powerful and accurate it can be, it was still remarkable to have a partner and to discover what the world needs to know. And we went through the elements and met the spirits of all of the elements and the animals that are associated with it. She drew, I wrote, and then we did the major arcana. We did them in 3 weeks. I was in an altered state the entire time. It was one of the most powerful experiences of my life. And it's radically, radically different because the traditional tarot begins with the magician, sometimes the fool, right? Then the magician, and moves on a course that essentially leads you up, away, and out of the world, right?
Yes.
The last card, ironically, is called the world, and it's a figure floating in space.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it was created by two members of the Golden Dawn who ended up actually then creating a very Christian kind of mystical society. And they had that perspective that the divine is to be found. That's the whole biblical model, right? Patriarchal model, that the divine's someplace else. It's not in this world. Spirit is other. It's elsewhere. And a lot of witches still practice like that. I was taught that way when it was time to invoke North. We would gesticulate facing heaven, looking heavenward. Well, that's not where Earth is. It's under your feet. It took me a long time to realize that. But the deck was very clear. This is not a journey. A witch's deck is not a journey out of the world. It's a journey into the world. It's a journey into creation, into your life, into the spiritual meaning of your life. And so it reverses order. It begins with the world on fire, in fact, and the next card, which would have been judgment, is initiation, and it moves essentially, quote, backwards, not backwards, but down and in. It's an initiation journey, a descent, which you'll appreciate with your mastery of Hecate's wisdom. It's a descent into the world. And the world right now is, somewhat an underworld, but it is holy and sacred, deeply wise. It will dismember you, but it will always bring you back to life. And the presence, the energy that accompanied me, us, and anybody who uses the deck is profoundly benevolent, very loving, very aware of our frailties and our flaws and our limitations, and shows them to us in the full measure of their meaning in our lives, but as a lesson in that there's always gold in the dark, right?
Yeah.
So I know you understand this with Hecate, that there's always, right? Hecate phosphorus, that there's always light in the darkness, that there is a blessing, that there is a lesson in the moment of the crisis, of the confrontation with the fascist, of the illness that, that can seize your life away, that there is a lesson. And in the moment of that lesson, all is illuminated and life begins again. And so this deck takes you through dismemberments, but always with this traditional, deeply shamanic, incredibly compassionate, loving energy of putting you back together again, so that when you emerge from the underworld, from the challenge, from the illness, the loss, the tragedy, you are made anew. You're stronger and wiser, and your purpose is clearer, and your capacity to fulfill it is more realized. Your self-awareness has grown. It's an amazing deck, and it's a deck that I didn't know whether it would work. I mean, this is the thing, right? It was so radically different. We didn't know if it would work when people went to it and asked it for wisdom and asked it for guidance and asked it to help them see themselves or to see the future. Would it work? And the answer has been this amazing yes from all sorts of people all over the world who are working with the deck. And one of the greatest gifts that they're being given is this forging of a new relationship with the earth, of an ability to really see the sacred that's embodied by the natural world. It's incredibly responsive. It's incredibly benevolent. It will shake you when you need shaking and dismember you, when you need that. But it will always guide you to greater strength and magic. I wrote it in a slightly altered state. It's a written deck. It's very different. It's written. The first section is called Wisdom, and it will alter your consciousness when you read it. It's like taking you on a journey into the card. And then the second section is Counsel, and it's very different. It's very direct. It's like, okay, and now I'm going to explain to you what that journey meant in terms of how you're living your life and the choices that you're making and what you really need to know. And then there's a little bit of magic, which I didn't intend to write. But it was like very clear. So every card has a little magic to integrate or to activate the teaching of the card, of what you've been shown. And I was given a reading. I journeyed for a way to spread the cards and read them. It was called The Compass Rose, which I explained at length in the book. But what I've discovered of working with it now for, a while, is that the deck will tell you how to work with it. Like pick 5 cards, or nope, break it into 3 piles, put them back together, the old model, right? Shuffle it up, 3 piles, put it back together again, pick off the top, pick off the bottom. Okay, pick randomly. It tells you. It really speaks so clearly And if you just trust your intuition, right? Trust that you're hearing it. It will tell you exactly how to work with it. Spread 5 cards, put them in a pyramid, put them in a circle. I mean, it's amazing. It's really amazing. And the thing I love is the thing that I love most of all is that when you speak to it, it speaks back. And the greatest gift it gives you is the realization that you're not alone. Hillary was talking about being overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
And our practices are too complicated. And how do we stay connected to our magic? And how do we stay open to it when we're overwhelmed and there's too much and there's dust? And believe you me, do I understand, right?
Right. Of course. You've got quite...
But one card either is like, this is my morning meditation. I pull what do I need to know today? What do I need to know? And I pull the card, and the teaching, the speaking through the card is so wise and generous. And then, the day proceeds and I'm guided. And no matter how hard it is, I know that I'm not alone. I know that there is a presence that is guiding how I go. And that may be one of the greatest gifts that we could all have right now, is that it can be utterly simple. We connect with the divine, with the magic, with the magic in ourselves and the magic that's everywhere going on in the world, and that we so easily lose track of because everything else that's going on in the world. If we just take that moment, this deck wants to draw you out into the sunlight, onto the grass, into the water, to feel the wind, to learn from the animals, to receive healing from the plants, to help you find your way back home. And even if it's just this moment of revelation, in that revelation is that presence that you're not alone. None of us are alone. We're all connected, and we're most intimately connected with Mother Earth, and she is giving us everything that we need to live and to learn and to grow and to get through this very dark time that's ahead. Things are being disrupted, but the wisdom is still there and the grace is still embodied. And so, that's what I want people to be able to take this deck and ask difficult questions, or just have that moment of daily revelation, or know that it's there at a moment of crisis. But most of all, to know that they're not alone, that magic is real. And it's a part of who they are. And it's the thing that connects them to this greater magic, to nature's magic, to holy magic. And it's their birthright. And there's a way of living that will help you heal and be in harmony and be happy. It's a happy deck. It's a very happy deck. There are no swords and there are no people lying in pools of blood.
And it's so inclusive. I mean, you have all different body types and skin colors and gender identities. It's just and then, like you said, you have a lot of animals, and then the landscape and the colors are so vibrant and soft at the same time. It's really, really lovely. Yeah. And I'm just thrilled because you're going to be talking about this at So Mote That Con next month.
I am. I'm really excited. The reason that we're doing this is in part because there is a new version of the deck that's going to come out in October, November. It's smaller. So it's easier for people with small hands, and it's less expensive, which is wonderful. It's not as fabulous because the box and the bag, you don't get all that stuff, but it has the book, it has the cards. And I am teaching, in your wonderful conference. I can't wait. I'm really psyched to share it with people.
We were thrilled when you agreed to be with us. And that's been one thing people have been excited about. They're like, I can't believe that Phyllis Curott is on this con. This is going to be an incredible day, or 2 days essentially. So,
wonderful people. It's not just me. You got a lot of wonderful people coming in, but I'm thrilled to be part of it. I really am.
Thank you. Well, I'm just delighted. So, remind people where they can find you between now and So Mote That Con.
Right here sitting at my desk, outside in the garden. They can find me at my website. That's the easiest way. PhyllisCurott.com. And I have a present for everybody who is listening to this. We took the Pilgrim card, which is the final card in our deck. You can see her behind my shoulder. That's her. And she is not a fool. She's looking straight ahead. She's clear-eyed. She's steady as she goes. She doesn't necessarily know where the next adventure lies, right? But she knows that she's supported from beneath by Mother Earth, that there is a destiny in the stars above her head guiding her. She's got the fox with her, the instinct, helping her as she goes. And I included the magic. So we created this beautiful little PDF of that card and the magic, the counsel and the magic that goes with it. So if they go to my website and you go /pilgrim, it's yours.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's so cool.
And what a time.
A picture before you came on, because it's behind, for the listeners that can't see it, it's this big, beautiful picture that's behind her. And I was looking at it before I saw you in the camera and seeing how pretty that was. So that is so cool to know that that's what that picture represents.
It's us. It's all of us on our journeys. And the message of that card is that you're supported. You're guided, you're supported. Know that, and go forth with courage. And I'm going to share how to work with this deck in your class.
It's going to be so good. So y'all, don't forget, this is the last week that you can sign up at the pre-sale price. Tickets prices do go up on September 29th. And so y'all need to get on it because you went to, it's worth it just for Phyllis's class alone, but you're going to get a whole bunch of wonderful things and just getting this time with Phyllis, like the one-on-one one of the reasons I love having you on the show is just being able to talk with you, because we just go so deep and so profound that I always leave feeling but lifted up afterward. And so everybody's going to get a chance to have that time with you in that space. And so I'm just really,
I love the idea that the last card isn't it's not an ending card. It's someone who's now ready for the next new beginning, but has the tools, right? Like you said, has the tools, has the resources, has the grounding, has the help for that new beginning. Like, I love that. That's a very poetic, beautiful thought.
Thank you. The longer I've practiced, the simpler my practice has become.
Yeah, agreed.
And I used to say the breath is just that the divine is just a breath away. And now, I know that it's not just the divine, it's like the plants. That every breath I take, I'm exchanging the breath of life with the plants. So when all I need to do, what's a witch? It's somebody who's paying attention. So you bring your attention to what's happening as you're breathing, and you realize the blessing that you're receiving. You also realize there's no waste. I was taught when you exhale, exhale your garbage, exhale your tension, exhale all that terrible stuff. It's like the trees started laughing at me and they were like, stop doing that. I was like, what? Like, stop doing that. There is no waste. Just breathe, inhale what we're giving you. And I brought it in and I realized, silly human that I was, there's no waste. They are creating the breath of life for me. They're creating oxygen, right? They metabolize it and they release it, and I bring it into my body. Without that, I won't live. And when I exhale, my body's metabolizing carbon dioxide, which they inhale. So we're linked with every breath that we take and that we give, that we're exchanging the breath of life. There's no waste in nature. There's no waste, right? One thing becomes another in the mother. That was one of the first chants I learned. It took me 40 years to really get the teaching from the teachers, from the plants. There's no waste. One thing becomes another. and the mother. That's nature's magic. Yeah. So anyway, I can't wait to teach with you. I'm teaching a big masterclass. I'm going to start it in October.
Okay.
I'll send you some news about that. Yeah, because I think that we overcomplicate our practices,
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. And that in fact, there's incredible power in the simplest things once our minds awaken to what's actually happening. And
Excellent.
I think you're right. And I think that's one of the things that comes with the wisdom as you get older, where you stop trying to, quote unquote, do everything correctly, and you start kind of realizing, like you said, that things are so much simpler than that. They're so much simpler than having to do X, Y, Z. You just kind of have to cut through all that stuff that you once thought was important, that as you get older, you realize that was not important.
Yeah, it's a big circle. And like where Phyllis said, eventually it's coming back. It's coming back within, and it's getting back to the simplicity. Well, thank you so much, Phyllis, for taking the time to be with us today, and for the profound and powerful work that you do all over the world. And we're so thankful for you and for what you have done and what you continue to do. And, thank you for your time now and in October.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you at the So Mote That Con. It's just going to be such a wonderful class. People are just going to love it.
It's a joy to spend this time with you, and I'm really looking forward to participating and to meeting your folks and getting the word out. And I'm looking forward just, like a private call with a cup of tea and, just getting caught up. That'll be a pleasure. Thank you, both of you, all of you, everybody listening. I really appreciate the love and the curiosity.
Oh, likewise.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Stay witchy, stay magical, but also keep it simple, just like Phyllis said. And we will see everybody next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to That Witch Life podcast. Our music is by Dustin Schultz, editing by Corey Drake. If you like what we do, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the show, you can buy us a coffee or check out our merch on our Etsy store, or join us on Patreon for bonus content, ad-free episodes, or to join our witch squad. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For show notes, audio transcript, or to ask us a question to answer on a future episode, go to thatwitchlife.com. Until then, keep moting that shit. We will talk to you next week.
So mote it be.